Your baby is 8 to 10 months and the poop has hit the proverbial fan in the sleep department. Are you in the middle of the 8 to 10 month sleep regression, and how the heck do we get over it? Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sarah, and as the lead certified pediatric sleep expert at Your Zen Baby Sleep, I have helped hundreds and hundreds of families get through this stage specifically. Fun fact, it's like kind of one of my favorite ages when I'm working with a family, because there's so much that we can teach and so much that our babies can learn during the 8 to 10 month range. What we'll talk about today is what is the 8 to 10 month sleep regression, symptoms of it, and how to solve it. It's really important to start off this video by explaining the fact that a regression should not be scary, even though all over the internet there's a lot of fear surrounded by all of these sleep regressions. In my practice, I always want to empower parents to understand that a sleep regression really is a progression and just a sign that your child's body is developing and growing right on track. And it's their way of saying, it's time to change things up, mom and dad. And I don't have a way to actually say that with my words, so I'm gonna say it with the way that I'm not really sleeping anymore. I also want to talk about things that are not the 8 to 10 month sleep regression. So there are many things that affect our child's sleep, right? And the ones that we go to most often are teething, or possibly sickness and illness, especially if it's the time of year for cold and flu season, or if your child has just started daycare, as well as developing new skills, so reaching milestones such as crawling and pulling to stand. If your child is cutting a tooth, so you can see it actively at the gum line, you see redness, swelling, you see a little hole at the top of the gum line or a little white piece poking through, then it is very possible that their sleep is being affected because they are in pain. Acute teething pain lasts for about 2 to 3 days until the gum pushes through the surface, and then we should have no more symptoms of the teething pain anymore, and sleep should not be affected by the teething pain at that point. The same idea goes for a cold or a sickness. So for the most part, the majority of colds, flus, illnesses, the bulk of the symptoms, the worst of it, lasts for about 2 to 3 days. The residual symptoms, right, like stuffy nose, runny nose, cough, may last for many, many days or weeks longer. But when your child's really not feeling good, it should only be for about 2 to 3 days, and that should be when sleep is affected the most, and then should get back on track afterwards. Finally, if your child is developing a new skill, so if they're really, really learning to crawl and they're up all night trying to figure out how to crawl, or pull to stand and they figured out how to do that in their crib, this isn't necessarily related directly to the 8 to 10 month sleep regression, but we can see these skills happening all at the same time. So you can see that there's a lot of things that could affect sleep, but I want to be very specific today in my troubleshooting for just what happens with our bodies internally in the 8 to 10 month range and how we can troubleshoot it to make sure that sleep gets on track and isn't totally thrown off by all these other things that could affect it, right? The teething and the sickness and the developmental milestones. The reason why we hit sleep regressions at 8 to 10 months is because there is a change that's going on inside of our body internally. So this happens to do with our circadian rhythm, which is our body's 24-hour biological clock. And the biological clock dictates our sleep and our hormones, our digestive system, our immune system, our cardiovascular system. So many functions run on this 24-hour clock. And at certain times of the day when we talk about sleep and hormones, our body is producing melatonin and adenosine, our sleepy hormones. And at other times of the day, it produces cortisol and adrenaline, our awake hormones. When we're talking about the times of day when our body produces sleepy hormones, it happens between 8:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning, 12 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 3:30 to 4 o'clock in the late afternoon. And you might find that as I'm saying these times that you realize, oh, my baby's 3 naps pretty much align with those time periods. However, I want to compare that to adults. Our bodies as adults have the same exact hormone release as our baby's bodies do. We have a surge of sleepy hormones at 8:30 or 9, 12 or 1, and between 3:30 and 4. But because we are adults, we are able to push through the majority of those sleepy surges. The one that affects us the most, that I always talk about to my families so that they really understand and drive home the concept of the biology behind sleep, is that 3:30 to 4 o'clock surge. So if you think about it, 3:30 to 4 o'clock is a hard time of day for any parent, whether you are at home with your children and just trying to push through the witching hour, or you're at work and you're sitting at your desk and just trying to get to 5 o'clock so you can leave. 3:30 or 4 o'clock is when often I even really feel the urge to go reach for a cup of coffee to help push through. That is a real biological response that our bodies are sending our brains in order to go to sleep. And this is going to be the time period, 3:30 to 4 o'clock, ironically enough, that your child is no longer going to feel with as much intensity when they get to the 8 to 10 month sleep regression. This means that it is time to drop your baby's nap. When we hit regressions, again, all it means is that your child is developing and growing and starting to exhibit a new skill or a new way of sleeping. And in this case, it is going to be time to drop the third nap in order to accommodate new sleep needs. 9 or 10-month-old does not need as much daytime sleep anymore, and they may actually need to transfer some of their daytime sleep to their nighttime sleep. They're able to stay awake a little bit longer, and they're able to sustain more tolerance for that sleep pressure that we have in between those long stretches at the end of the second nap and their bedtime. But like what are the symptoms, what are the signs that your child actually is ready to drop a third nap? Because this can be scary. Let's talk about 4 of those signs first. The biggest sign that your child is ready to drop their third nap is that they're refusing the third nap. I want to make sure that this is happening for about 1 to 2 weeks, and I really want your child to be as close to 8-month-old as possible. And what this means is that they take 30 to 45 minutes to fall asleep for that third nap in order to only sleep for about 15. It's really becoming a fight, but then they're seemingly a super hot mess right before bedtime, so they really don't know what they want, and you're not really sure what to do in that 3 to 8 o'clock time range with their sleep. The second sign, kind of the opposite, is they are taking the nap. They're fine going to sleep, but bedtime is progressively getting pushed later and later. So as a result of them taking this third nap, and that nap actually possibly being later and later, their bedtime is pushing much beyond 8 p.m. 8 p.m. is really the latest that I want any child up to the age of 7 to go to sleep. Scientifically, it's the best chance at getting optimal deep non-REM sleep for our children. So if your 8, 9, or 10-month-old is really pushing bedtime to 8:30 or 9 o'clock as a result of their late third nap, this is another sign it's time to drop it. The third sign that it is time to drop the third nap is nothing in the schedule has changed. Bedtime is still fine, but all of a sudden they've started waking up really early in the morning. An appropriate wake-up time for a child in this age range is somewhere between 6 and 7 a.m. So your early morning waking is going to look different than your neighbors. However, in my book, anything before 6 a.m. is considered an early morning waking. You've been experiencing this for about 1 to 2 weeks. This would be another sign that their schedule needs to change. Last sign that your child is going through the 8 to 10 month sleep regression is their overnight sleep is totally off. So you may, up to this point, have been offering one night feeding and it's been super easy. You feed them, they go back to sleep, you put them in their crib, and we're done for the rest of the night. All of the sudden, your baby starts waking up as often as they did during the newborn period, and you're not sure, is it a growth spurt? Do they really need more food overnight? But they're actually eating solids during the day. There's a lot of questioning in your head. This is likely because they don't need an extra feeding. They actually are probably ready to drop that feeding, or they're ready to learn how to fall asleep independently. When our children wake up more frequently than they have been, this is the biggest readiness sign that they don't need as much parental intervention. They are ready to kind of take that on themselves and do it on their own, and this is a great time to consider sleep training. Let's solve it then. We know all of the signs and the symptoms when you've experienced one or multiple of these for 1 to 2 weeks and your child is 8 to 10 months old. It is time to drop the nap. And what we do is we just simply drop it cold turkey. This is one of the easier nap transitions that you will go through. It might take about a week or two for your child to adjust to not having that third nap, but it's not going to be as detrimental, for lack of a better word, as the drop from 2 to 1 naps are going to be in about 8 months from now. We want to begin as we mean to go, so we're going to also rearrange the rest of the schedule during the daytime. I want you to lock in 2 times a day that you're giving your children naps. If you have been using wake windows up to this point, this is going to blow your mind. I don't want you to use them anymore. At this age, it's really important to get your child to sleep at those times when they are feeling that biological urge to sleep. It's going to produce more sleepy hormones, which means they will get in a deeper non-REM sleep. And because we're offering less daytime sleep, we really need to make sure that it's quality and during a time when they're actually producing melatonin and not during a time when they're producing cortisol and adrenaline. I want you to lock in that first nap time as 9 a.m. Now, you can be flexible plus or minus 30 minutes, just depending on when your child wakes up. If they're a little bit of a later riser and they wake up at 7, it's okay to offer them at 9:30. However, I don't want you to offer a nap any later than 9:30 in the morning because 8:30 to 9:30 is that first range of sleepy hormone surge. The same rules apply for the afternoon nap. I want it to be offered at 1 o'clock, plus or minus 30 minutes, depending on the length of the first nap. The latest that you should offer your second nap is 1:30 in order to really hit that sweet spot of sleep when melatonin and adenosine are at their highest. What do we do now that we hit 3:30 or 4 o'clock? This is going to be a time where I strongly suggest we don't go out for walks in the stroller. We're trying our best not to be in the car. We really want to make sure we're engaging and interacting with our child to keep them awake as best that we can. They're going to be fussy. They're not going to be happy about it. But if their body is telling them they need to push through this nap, this is going to be the best thing for them. And in about a week or 2, they'll be used to not sleeping at this time. So we're really going to push through 3:30 or 4. We're not going to offer them a nap. And then we're going to shift bedtime a little bit earlier to close the gap between the end of nap 2 and bedtime. If your bedtime is usually 7 p.m., you might want to shift it to 6:30. Don't ever be afraid of a 6 o'clock bedtime. There's nothing wrong with putting your child in bed at 6 o'clock, and this is when their sleepy hormones actually start to produce the most at 6 p.m. leading up to 8 p.m. Alternatively, if your bedtime's at 7:30, then bring it back down to 7. The biggest thing is just trying to close as much of that gap between the end of nap 2 and the beginning of bedtime to make sure that they're not super overtired by the time that they go to bed and are really able to capitalize on those sleepy hormones. It'll take about 1 to 2 weeks for your child to officially drop their third nap, and you may see that some days they're taking that nap and they just can't push through, and that's okay. Give yourself grace, give them grace. They're babies, not robots, right? And when we get to the end of the 2 weeks, we really should be on a really set and solid schedule. A 6:30 in the morning wake up, 9 a.m. nap, 1:30 nap, 7 o'clock bedtime, and they should be sleeping through the night again without any more problems. And you did it, Mom and Dad. I love helping families get the sleep that they need. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I would love to help you troubleshoot through the 8 to 10 month sleep regression as you are implementing some of my suggestions. So if you have questions, please leave them in the comments. I am always there to answer them and really help you get over this hump. And if you need more personalized support, as you scroll down, you're gonna see the link to my website to book a call with me. I'd love to chat with you and talk about my one-on-one or group coaching programs that really help families get on track through these regressions or even through sleep training. If you like the information, you know what to do. Please give it a like. And also, I am adamant about posting regular content about sleep because sleep changes and evolves all the time. So be sure to subscribe to the channel to be the first to know when I publish a new video. As always, from my living room to yours, thank you so much for joining me today, and sweet dreams.